We're live. Senate Education Committee, April 10th, 2025. We're back after a break. And we're going to go back on to H480. And we have with us General Porter. And we're back on the section, having another discussion about the section about tuition for guard members. And we found ourselves, to use a term that I guess this could become kind of a one term for a lot of people say it, wrapped around the axle on the exact language. We're actually going to be back up from that. We actually decided we wanted to get away from focusing on the exact language and really focus on exactly what we're trying to accomplish. And the more we talked about it with our Ledge Council the other day, the more we began to go a little bit in circles. So we just wanted to really go back and zero in on exactly what we're trying to accomplish. And we have the issue of the 2 degrees, and there were all kinds of permutations people were talking about. Could you have a master's degree and then go back and get a certificate? Or so those were the kinds of things. So I guess we just wanted to ask you, it's like exactly what are you trying to accomplish here?
Yeah, once again, Brigadier General Hank Carter, I'm the Deputy Adjutant for the State of Vermont. Thank you for inviting me back. I think there's been some good discussion, and I appreciate the back and forth on some of the potential language. I guess, Senator, and I'll try to give you as best a concrete answer, but we do want flexibility in the program because we do have folks that join us at different stages of life and different stages of levels of education. So with the test case in the last 2 years of being able to go for a second bachelor's degree and then potentially a master's, we really liked that provision. And I know that that's the provision that's sunsetting based, unless, what happens with the language, sunsetting on July 1st. Because we'll have folks that come to us out of high school and the tuition benefit is a great value for them just to go after either an associate's or a bachelor's degree. And then we'll sometimes have people that have a bachelor's that come to us later in life and they'll want to continue to pursue their education. And once again, one of the benefits of serving would be to perhaps go for that second bachelor's or a master's. So I guess the bill has done a great job of helping us recruit the best and brightest from Vermont and around our area and to retain them as well. So our purpose is really to have a benefit that is going to, if you will, reward the service of the member for raising the right hand and coming into the Guard to serve both the state and our federal mission. I think I mentioned it when I came before, is prior to 2018, and Senator Ron Hinsdale talked about she's been working on this for a long time, and there were people in the Guard that were advocating for a long time. But we really did kind of go from worst to first in terms of our surrounding states and the benefits that New Hampshire, New York, Massachusetts all provided to their members. And I say our program is really robust as it is. I do think that keeping the ability to go for that second degree or a certificate is very important. And I do want to focus a little bit on the certificate language because sometimes some of our soldiers or airmen are more interested in going into the trades and it may connect better to their military occupation as well. And so having the flexibility to use the Vermont National Guard tuition benefit for a certificate program is equally important.
So, Mr. Chair, did you want everyone to have the proposed new language in front of them?
Beth, do the language for us?
Yes.
Oh.
And
My apologies, I can get it real quick.
Oh, okay.
General Harder has it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I do. Okay. Well, yes, I did. Might as well if you had it. Which version are we looking at? Well, we're
was
looking at 3.1.
Yeah.
3.1 is the H480, but we have now had some language that
What is that?
So this is what you said.
Yeah.
This is this is what that.
Right. So it doesn't have a draft number. Senator Lawrence. It has highlighting.
It had your
Right, exactly. It's my name and draft language, just a new proposal from this morning.
Oh, so you worked on it with that?
Yeah.
Okay, do we have, okay, is it posted?
It is.
Okay.
All right, well, I told you.
So hang on, if it was from you.
Wow, hey, I went and looked for it. I didn't
Will
know.
can put it up on the screen.
I just went through.
I think you have to go all the way out and then go back in. Because it just got posted, I think.
I just came back. There. Best St. It's under Best St. James now.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
sure.
There you
Okay, we also have it in front of us, so
I suppose if people are okay, we don't have counsel, but I could ask Will to scroll down to the highlighted language and that would show us the change in.
so starting on, the Highland language starts on page 2 of 8.
Yeah. Um. This, I think. There's still a section on graduate degree. And. You know, Beth and I went around on this and I was just saying this to our colleagues from the Guard. Beth believes graduate degree includes other terminal degrees, other professional degrees. I'm great with that because it means we don't have to come back in a couple of years and say, you know, people really want to get other types of degrees. So everything else is kind of cleanup language that fits in, except the highlighting that essentially says you can get whatever kinds of certificates and degrees you want up to the value of 2 in-state undergraduate degrees at UVM. So it doubles the allowance that one person can get instead of saying you can get these 2 types of degrees. So that, I don't know, Will, if you could keep
It's
page 4. So, well, we can start here. We were having a mini debate about undergraduate degree, and Beth believes that captures both associates and other baccalaureate degrees. So that covers, so now that has training, undergraduate and graduate. An amount equal to twice the full-time in-state tuition. So it used to say exceed the full-time in-state tuition rate charged by UVM. And now we're doubling the allowance they can get. So they can use it for any number of programs that terminate in a certificate or a degree of some kind, up to the value of 2 in-state undergraduate degrees.
And how do we measure that? Because the cost varies year to year. And one school is more expensive than another. How do we measure that? I think it did say UVM actually. Right?
Yes. Oh, if that's what you mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, that's part of it. So UVM answers part of the question. How do you, if somebody's in the Guard though for 20 years, how do you determine value of a degree, the cost of a degree? Because if they did one here and then 15 years later they finished another.
Yeah, good point, sir. I mean, I would say that for this, there would be only obviously degrees that they earned under this program. I will say that we keep pretty good records as to line by line name and student and how much the grant that was administered through VSAC. So from the inception of the program now, our Department of Finance keeps the records on the individuals and then how much, whether they went to CCD or UVM, how much money from the grant was portioned in their studies.
Okay. Let's go on. Let's keep going.
I think that's the meat of it. Will, do you want to scroll through and see if there's anything else? And I know that the general wanted to make sure that it still applies to out-of-state programs that are hard, that you can't really find in Vermont, which it does that. So I made sure that
Right,
didn't
and that's right at the beginning.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, thank you, Will. I need to figure out like what we were trying to say here. What's above A on this? They can terminate the benefit if, and I don't know if Beth also felt like this was cleanup language. If the individual, so if they if they've already failed to satisfy the work requirement after they got their graduate degree under the program, that also can result in termination. I don't remember having a lengthy conversation about that. I think that's housekeeping. As long as that aligns with your understanding of
Yes.
what can result in termination
Yeah.
from the program. And then it follows what happens if their benefit is terminated, which is existing, and we can keep scrolling.
And then really, like you said, Senator, in the very beginning on page 1, it seems it's where it says for courses at non-Vermont approved post-secondary education institution approved for federal Title IV funding with a degree program is not available in Vermont shall be the benefit shall be in state tuition. And so,
Right.
for example, and I think you all have discussed and said if it's a physician's assistance program, for example, that's not offered in Vermont than it is at UNH.
Yeah.
And they're a member of the Guard, they can still use it if it's a program we don't offer here in the state.
Now, does it have to be offered here in the state first? Like, say UVM's offering something, but I decide I want to go to New Hampshire.
The way
Does
I understand it is, if it's a program we offer in Vermont, they should be a Vermont institution. Yeah.
Did I say the United States? Or did I say
UNH?
Vermont?
You said,
Okay, yeah, Jesus.
Sounds right.
United States.
So,
and Senator, I'll just say that, we can work closely with VSAC and Tom Little and I go back and forth. I did share some of this language with them. They may request, and I did send it to Will, that if there's time for them to get on the schedule, they look at this language pretty carefully as well. And sometimes there's things from their perspective that might not come up from our reading.
so you contracted?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And if you were on a different time schedule, it will likely go to appropriation. So
Right, if it has the 1.2.
it just affects the underlying appropriations of the state.
Yes, well, I guess it does, because we're still limited to the amount.
Correct,
It's
and
how
that's-
you divvy it up.
That's the way, exactly. And it really, what's great about the flexibility is year to year, we're gonna have a different crop of airmen and soldiers going for different things. So the fact that we get an appropriation at this point, it had historically been $1.3 million, and then the House appropriations reduced it for next fiscal year to 1.2. And I do have a note into them that, we would love to get that $100,000 back, just so that we have the money there, because there's been growth year by year. And I think I showed you those graphs last time.
There we have it.
But this does not incur more money to this, more money asked to the state.
Do you have the flexibility within your guidelines that you employ to, like, if there's not enough, if you can see there's not gonna be enough money to go around, do you have enough money to say, I'm gonna focus on the people who don't yet have a bachelor's degree and make it up with having a monthly for?
Very interesting. Said we haven't come to that point yet because we've had the luxury of having enough money to satisfy the needs of all the airmen and soldiers that have come to us. And Will, if you might, it might be worth putting the things I sent you today.
Yeah.
And it shows the
He does.
right. I think this is just a good look back at we're looking at 2 academic years when it gets up there. And it shows you the breakdown of, at least in that academic year, how many we're going for, the different types of degrees. Yeah. And then scroll down, if you will, to the second page. There you go. So if you look at that, it starts at the top with academic year 23-24. And then as you go further down, it's 22 academic year 22-23. And as wouldn't be surprising, the bachelor's degrees is the most used. And you can see the rest there. Of note, the master's degree In 23-24 it was at 18, and then the first year it was offered, it was at 7. So we had more than. But to your question, sir, I think that's a very good question. I think that would be an interesting job for our education officers to try to collate, like, who would get priority, how do you assess that?
But you think that you can do that, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I think we have the flexibility that if the adjutant general said, hey, the program's been successful, but boy, we've got airmen and soldiers coming in that don't have an associate set or don't have a bachelor's. I do believe that we might have to adjust some of our internal policies, but we probably could control that.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you have the flexibility
Yeah.
to do what you believe makes sense with the amount of money that you're gonna be.
Yeah. I think from a recruiting and retention standpoint, when our recruiters meet with a prospective recruit, this is one of the things, and they kind of are able to say the same thing to everybody. So we treat everybody kind of on the same playing field, regardless of how many degrees they have. But I think the policy could change that if needed.
So I'm thinking ahead to whoever has to report this bill or this section of the bill on the floor. And I'm wondering if your staff could send to us the recruiting and retention data that covers the period going back to 2018 to the present, to prove that this is an effective tool or has some effect, just to keep it in our back pocket in case we get questioned on the floor.
Sure. Yeah, and obviously we have had challenges. I know, and I looked at some surveys that Sergeant Stewart has done, really with a smaller number, about 100 soldiers, and then a larger survey. But and you can't make a direct correlation. I know anecdotally, we know that it's popular from both commanders' interviews with soldiers and airmen, that, hey, why did you? And I do this about every drill. I'll meet with a smaller group of airmen because I'm military side, I'm on the Air Guard side, and say, hey, what brought you? I always want to hear their story. What brought you into the Guard? And to a person, especially in our younger recruits, they're saying this tuition benefit program was a big part, sometimes the part of why they joined. I can't draw a line in our recruiters that this many were directly linked.
I think the real point is that your retention's not 100%, and you're not fully manned. And this tool is still appropriate given the environment.
Absolutely. And what you will see is that our retention numbers, both on the Army and Air side, nationally are very good, even though our total strength may be lower, because we're in a tough recruiting environment here and population density. But our retention rates are good, and I would say this is a big.
So bottom line here is you can do any combination of two.
No. You can do any combination up to the value of 2 undergraduate degrees.
Oh, okay. So you could theoretically do an associate's, whatever, and then go back and get a certificate if you still have enough room left. Okay.
Right. And it'd be interesting to see what VSACs, look at this as, but to me, it's simple language and it's simple to understand. So if I came into the Guard with a bachelor's but I wanted to go pursue an associate's for something and then maybe a master's, as long as I know that I can't see the value of 2 bachelor's degrees, that would be at the UVM rate, then I'm.
Yeah, maybe you showed us this. I can't remember. Did you show us the kind of average expenditure for
Not the average, but I think that I can show you the total award amounts. And if we scroll up on that last one, if you go up, so there you go. This is from the beginning of the program. You could see that the first year it was available in 2018-19, 84 members, both Army and Air, used it, and the total award was $636,000. It dipped a little bit in 2019 and 2020.
Okay.
And yeah, exactly. A good point, Senator. And then 2020 and 2021, it jumped up to 64 and 502,000. 2021, 22, 82 users, and 776,000 awarded. And then you've seen the other, but we were at $1.2 million in academic year 2022-23. That was with 107 users. And then our total dollars usage went down a little bit in 23-24, but our usage stayed the same at 108. And some of that is, somebody chooses to go to CCV and whatever degree is slightly less than somebody perhaps when
It's about, your average is about, at least for 23, 24, it's about $10,000.
Yeah.
Per
Yeah.
person.
And then in some of the surveys, the Sergeant Stewart and others are doing a real good job because it's a continual job of educating our folks that this benefit exists. So that part of Sergeant Stewart's job and his job is to get out to the Army units and make sure that the soldiers know that this is available to them. So in some of the surveys, I would say close to 75% of our membership knows that it's out there. And then, if you ask them if they're using it now, they may say, well, not right now, but then a large percentage say, I will want to use it in some.
So somebody could, and just really, the real averages, which in a way are meaningless, because averages are, because you've got all the highs and lows, but somebody could theoretically, over the course of a career, get about $80,000 worth of tuition at two degrees or something like that, which is fine.
Yeah,
So
that's what, yes, sir.
that's attractive.
Very much.
You also, all right. Well, we'll be laughing because we got so wrapped around the axle for the big sound of people.
Yeah, I mean,
Years ago.
well, and I appreciate that because even me reading the bill, I mean, I know with law, you have to look, there's a lot of things that go into it, and especially with this type of programs, you're incurring a service commitment, and you've got to address, okay, what if they don't, graduate, or what if they don't complete the service.
Yeah, what does happen?
Well, so it's interesting. It's a forgivable loan. You get down to the brass tacks and Sergeant Stewart. So when he briefs a soldier, they say, listen, this is the deal. You are going to get the benefit of the National Guard tuition benefit program, but you have 6 years left in your commitment. Therefore, you need to still be an active member of the Guard for those 6 years. And sometimes people's lives change and they do either get out or transfer to another state. It is up ultimately to the Adjutant General to take a look at the case, but VSAC is very good about going after our soldiers and airmen, and there are not many of them that end up, for whatever reason, leaving the Guard. And if they used, let's say they used 4 whole years, but they only their service commitment only covered 2 of the academic years, then they're going after the equivalent. It's a zero interest loan if it comes out to be.
And there's not a requirement that people complete in order to.
There is, yes, they actually complete their.
Have to complete the awarding of forgiveness.
Yeah.
And if they
Okay,
fail,
very good, yeah.
if they fail the course,
Well.
Oh, the academic.
Yeah,
The academic, yeah, if,
what happens if?
So, Robert Stewart, I'm the acting education service officer, primarily in city manager for the state of Vermont. So I have a plethora of knowledge on all the kinds of different education systems for us. If a soldier fails, what happens is us and VSAC will sit down and determine whether or not that soldier is going to have to not necessarily recoup that amount, but if we're going to go ahead and turn that amount from a forgivable loan into a no interest loan and just have that soldier have that as come following as a student loan. And the soldiers understand this. They understand that, as General Hodder said, that for every 1 year of school, it's a 2-year obligation to the service, and it runs in congruent with their contract. So a 6-year contract gets you 3 years of school using the Vermont tuition benefit program. And if they were to IST, which is interstate transfer, or ETS prior to that, again, it falls back onto VSAC to turn that. What's I'm looking for? We go back and we take the time they served and the allowance they were given, and we retroactively say, okay, this is what, yes, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
They prorate that and turn that into a zero interest loan that the soldier paid, or the individual paid back.
in certain conditions, the Adjutant General can look at the situation and let's say, we've had soldiers join the active duty and they're not serving, but they're serving. The conditions do matter, but they're, and we've done a really better job of making sure they understand that if they're not in the Vermont National Guard, because it's our program, that then they owe the money as a, as a loan, as opposed to.
But no interest on.
Zero,
Zero interest loan.
We should be.
So pretty
Most
good.
of our students.
Yes.
I just wanted to just convey one thought that, in the Navy, when we're running in a battle group and we're quiet, MCON, we want to talk to each other, we use flags. Okay, so the flag hoist we would hoist for a job well done is Bravo Zulu. So a Bravo flag and a Zulu flag. I'd like to give a Bravo Zulu to Senator Rom Hinsdale, General Harder, and Beth
Yeah.
for coordinating this final element. And job well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really bad.
I mean, my goal was that you not have to be back here in 2 years saying it's not flexible enough. I hope this gives a good amount of flexibility into the future because the world is changing in terms of the kind of education you need. And Beth's goal was to be extremely efficient because she has a lot going on right now. Then she's on the house floor. So I think necessity was the motherhood of very tight language that we hope people just see as, we're not saying, okay, you can get a graduate degree paid for, but not something else. Like the flexibility people need to get something that puts them in the workforce should be a financial amount, not a sort of telling people what programs are right.
And that's really appreciated, Senator, because that's the thing is, as mentioned, we have so many, and Senator Heffernan knows that we have people from all walks of life, all levels of education and different circumstances, single parents and that kind of thing. So it's not a one size fits all. And the fact that we're keeping the ability to go for that second bachelor's or master's in the program and simplifying the language.
So we're removing the sunset while we're at it.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. That
Because this thing gets baked into.
it does,
Okay.
exactly. I don't know that we can highlight the not sunset. But yes, and I'm trying to remember exactly what came up. But it led to a conversation of just saying there's a huge benefit to other students to be around veterans. It's a valuable lived experience that, enriches our campuses. And, so even if whoever reports this on the floor, it certainly, I think, means a lot that we're not relegating people to certain campuses or certain programs, but that we want them at all of our institutions because it makes those institutions better.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for the time. I really, and thank you to you and your committee for the time and attention on this matter. Appreciate it.
All right. Okay. That's all we have.